It's Monday night, and you know what that means, a special primetime edition of Real Talk right here via Jersey First TV. I want to welcome you all here on the 8th of May, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, I want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so right now on Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on the Jersey First YouTube page, as well as on LinkedIn. Folks, can't thank you enough for joining us here after really an amazing weekend for me. More on that later. But of course, folks, you know who I am. It is New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, Top 50 Latino, via Latino Spirit Online magazine. Without a doubt, the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media. And without a doubt, the people's choice and the people's voice, the guys whose skills, yes, they pay the bills. Here, it is me, Fernando Uribe. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, happy Monday to you all. Listen, I appreciate you tuning in here on this special primetime edition. We got a really great primetime guest coming up in a moment. But folks, I cannot say enough really about the support you give us every single week here on Jersey First TV. So do us all a favor. Again, if you haven't done so, go to our social media. We appreciate your support there. Obviously, make sure that you like Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. Also, like Jersey First TV on Facebook as well. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's the same handle at the Fernando Zone. And of course, also make sure you follow on Instagram and Twitter collectively, Jersey First TV. And of course, on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. Great new content, episodes every single week. And of course, wherever you get your podcast, whether it's Spotify or SoundCloud, download it and take Jersey First TV with you wherever and whenever you go out. And of course, folks, whether you're walking your dog, going to maybe the gym to, kind of work up some pounds before the summer, I don't know, grocery shopping. Hey, we're always on our smartphones. Well, guess what? Take Jersey First TV with you wherever and whenever you go, of course. And folks, I cannot say enough about how proud I am to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. Yes, folks, Jersey First TV bringing you excellent content every single week. Of course, we are entertaining, educating, and engaging. Nobody does it better than Jersey First TV. Of course, brand new episodes of The Nader Narrative hosted by Elizabeth Nader every Thursday, of course, online, and certainly Bridging the Gap with AJ Malilo and Stephen Rombolo. Of course, new episodes air every Thursday. And of course, live episodes of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe air every Monday night. Of course, our regularly scheduled time is 6, but a special primetime edition tonight, folks. We appreciate you sticking around to join us here, of course. And folks, I cannot say enough that without you, my loyal viewing audience, again, our traffic would not be what it is. And I cannot say enough about all the support this show continues to receive. And yes, folks, all organic, nothing's boosted, nothing's sponsored. It's all organic traffic, folks. Again, 11,000 and counting for the month of April. Again, because of you, my loyal viewing audience, these numbers are possible. So while you have, as I like to sort of point out, your little Mickey Mouse journalists and activists, your little Mickey Mouse shows, with your little Mickey Mouse traffic, folks, over here, we're doing solid numbers. Again, we're not the same. But of course, it's all due to you, folks, and I cannot thank you enough for tuning in every single week here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Folks, listen, without a doubt, it's a special primetime edition, and with that comes the primetime guest, the guest that everyone wants to hear from. And I bring you those exclusives that nobody else brings you in Garden State media, and I know that makes some people a little salty, and that's okay. With 100,000 flavors on Earth, people still choose to be salty. It's kind of weird. I can't explain it. But folks, primetime editions here always get attention. Of course, my guest always does as well. She is a distinguished councilwoman at large in the city of Jersey City. My good friend, Amy DeGise, joins us here on Real Talk. Amy, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. And again, shout out to your dad. I know he's always a gentleman with me, and hope everyone's doing well. And again, in advance, obviously, a happy Mother's Day to all the moms coming up there this weekend. So looking forward to that. Amy, obviously, let's get to it here. I know you're always, it seems unfortunately, you're always in the public eye, as they say, and it's been a few months since your last interview with me. I know I was very happy to say I was the first interview that you did after everything that happened in your legal situation. Some months have passed. Obviously, I know you're not at liberty to talk about the civil case. The criminal case was disposed of, but some months have come and gone. How are you feeling? What are you reflecting on? And quite frankly, where are you at right now?
Well, yeah, that was a nice entryway, back into, you're getting back to normal, I should say, the interview with you. And I can't thank you enough for doing that with me. But, the past couple months, been always prioritizing street safety, obviously, since the incident, doing a little bit more and trying to, create a diplomatic relationship between pedestrians, bike riders, and drivers. The three parties have to exist with each other. So I've been meeting with a lot of community groups, which has been great, and trying to now put them in the room together and hopefully do a little bit of an educational series: adult bike riding, safe streets, safe walking and biking to work, also some traffic safety measures, things that all three parties can be responsible for and feel like they have a seat at the table for.
Absolutely. It's also interesting because I know that when obviously you joined me earlier in the year in February, there was a lot of hoopla about your interview, right? About who should score the first interview. There were some comments online. Obviously, I know I felt the need to defend myself, and to his credit, again, I take a lot of shots at Uncle Dave for sort of the ongoing disservice he does to journalism quite often. But like, I'll give him his due. He did a solid interview with you.
He
He
was
certainly
great.
asked tough questions. I think he was fair. I'm sure there was a lot of pressure on him to, kind of maybe grill you, because I think he, if you looked at his social media, I mean, he never really hesitated to take shots at you. And I think that, when you went to his studio, I think in the back of your mind, I think you were ready for anything, I thought. And obviously we all know that, in the days afterwards, we saw the column from Tom Moran, certainly mentioning me. And I think if you saw how I cooked him the following week, it's been funny. Tom Moran has kept my name out of his mouth since then. And I think for his sake, I think hopefully he learned his lesson. But this is the thing though, Amy, months have gone by, but the vitriol, the backlash, I mean, I don't want to call it slander. I don't have a law degree, but I would say that some really hurtful commentary still permeates on social media with you. I think that I'm assuming you've developed as thick of a skin as adamantium in terms of like the metal that runs through the veins of Wolverine, right? I mean, I think at this point you have to sort of, I think, possess that based on the fact that people are not letting up.
Yeah, and a lot of people have. I feel like it's maybe like the same voices, just won't let themselves die out. And, doing Dave Cruz, that was great. It was, obviously stressful. I don't enjoy doing interviews that often, especially interviews on a topic like that. And I thought he did ask really good, tough questions as well. But he was very fair, and he was, trying to be as comforting and as kind as could be. He's a Jersey City guy, so he definitely takes a big interest into anything Jersey City, which I can always appreciate. But I feel like people are more forthcoming now, especially in person, with just asking, whether how I'm doing or, what have I done since? What are my steps forward? And I really enjoy those conversations. And like I said, I've been sitting down with some community groups talking about street safety. And I have to be honest that some groups are, will sit down with me and say, still don't want to work with you. And I can definitely respect that. I'm just offering them a seat at the table right now. People can leave the room still not liking me or who I am, say they'll never vote for me again, but I still have work to do. And I've, really enjoyed the groups of people that have, taken that to heart. And, it's kind of, kept everything going and moving. And I think shown everyone that you do have to keep things moving. You can't stay in a negative place like that. So the online rhetoric that stays in that negative place, I really ignore now. I don't look for it. I don't spend a whole lot of time on social media anyway. I've spent less since August, but I really do try to avoid anything that's negative or volatile or really, nasty.
Just to close out this segment on that particular specific topic, though, isn't it funny, though, because we've learned really that I think a lot of people on social media, though, Amy, have developed this sort of keyboard courage when it comes to, they're very quick, on their smartphones or their tablets or their computers to throw shade at people, to sort of throw comments. But when you run into them in person, I mean, I don't have enough fingers and toes to name the amount of times where there was at the League of Municipalities or events where I know blatantly there are people that dislike me. And I know that when I walk into a room, I specifically look at them. I give them that Fernando smug, arrogant smile. Like, is there something you'd want to say to me because I'm here? And I'll be honest with you, not because I'm like this, immaculate tough guy. I just know that every single time that happens, people just don't approach me. They just feel like, well, I can throw shade at Fernando on my computer, but they would never do it in person. And I just think that's one of the more toxic elements of social media. Is that fair to say for you too?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do the same. I think that's the Hudson County in us.
Yeah.
We're not going to back down. If we know someone doesn't like us, we're not looking to always win them over, but it's kind of like I say it to my face kind of thing. But I wish people would use their power, their energy, and their time to solve, other problems that are within their range too.
Yeah,
I try
it
to
just
tell
seems
people.
childish and petty. It just seems childish and petty. And again, like whether it's at the League of Municipalities or political events, and again, it's political season. So I make it a point to go to these events whenever open bars, food, hey, listen, I'm Cuban. I never pass up a free meal. But it's interesting when you go to these events and you know who likes you, you know who doesn't like you. And when you
Yeah.
make eye contact and there's this explicit intent on their part to like walk away or just not address you, it's, I don't know, it just seems empowering because it's like we're kind of waiting for someone to say something, but they're not going to. So I just think it's kind of funny in the long run. But yeah, it really is. But let's move on to more serious topics. In Jersey City right now, a topic that is still in the peripheral vision of everybody, and we're getting some big names attached to it, and that's the ongoing debate about Liberty State Park. Full disclosure, I know Bob Hurley Sr. I had the privilege of working with him as a probation officer many moons ago at that decrepit, asbestos-filled county building known as 595 Newark Avenue. Thank God they're
Wow.
replacing that building. But many
Yeah.
moons ago, working with Mr. Hurley, again, I still call him Mr. Hurley, had the privilege of, working with him. And I got to know Bob, and he's a gentleman. And I think that his heart's in the right place. Not everybody agrees.
Oh, he's a great man. The entire family, they're a great family. I think I've known them all or most of my life.
And also shout out to his son Danny winning the national championship with UConn. Shout out to him as well. But it just seems like Bob Hurley Sr., his name is now evoking certain reactions, Amy. It's not always positive, and that's really weird for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in Jersey City, it's definitely odd. It's a controversial topic, so any type of topic like that is going to bring, the two sides or bring out the worst of the two sides. But I think that people are having a good conversation about it. If you dig past like, the sexy headlines and look into what's actually being discussed, people are being, adult and professional and bringing up too, important things that we have to think about as a community. Liberty State Park was gifted to us to be a free recreational area, but it still needs rehabilitation. It still needs some more recreational facilities and more amenities that bring people down to the park. So there is an important conversation going on. I don't know if we can meet in the middle and have a compromise because I do believe in the upgrades need to be made. People are going to, play a pickup game of something, they're not going to Liberty State Park. But if you are, visiting the community and you want to see the skyline and experience a beautiful part of Jersey City, it's a free amenity. I live near the park, so I don't really want a big amphitheater or a stadium or a hall that's going to attract a lot of traffic and out of towners. But I do want to see some investments that make sure that it's, given the care that it deserves, that the wildlife, the plant life all have, revitalization to, towards them.
Folks, if you're just joining us right now, it's 9:13 here on the East Coast. It's a special primetime edition of Real Talk via Jersey First TV. And my guest this evening is the distinguished councilwoman at large in Jersey City, Amy DeGise, joining us. Amy, it's interesting you bring up sort of like the amenities about some of the amenities I think that people are recommending. Now, again, I had a chance to talk to some other activists back, I think about a couple months ago on Talking the Hudson, which you know very, very well, obviously one of my regular guests for a while. We have to kind of get back into that schedule. We'll talk about that off the air. But I had a chance to talk to some other activists recently, and something you learn something every time you do an episode. But I was under the impression that Liberty State Park was sort of a regional. It's not. It's a state park.
Yeah.
So for all intents and purposes, when I kind of get when I go on a diatribe about like, well, instead of having us travel down to the Jersey Shore to, let's say the Performing Arts Center, excuse me, it escapes me. It's down in the Performing Arts Center. I know there's one in Newark, but it's down the shore.
In Homedale, PNC.
PNC, yes. I mean, for me, I would just think, hey, it would be great to have an amphitheater in Jersey City. It would be great to maybe have a small facility because it would attract, let's say, conferences. But at the end of the day, it's not like whatever revenue is being raised there isn't benefiting Jersey City. It's a state park. So for me, it just seems like, well, if people this is the thing. I find it odd that people still want these amenities when let's be honest, none of the revenue that's going to create or generate, excuse me, is going to benefit nearby Jersey City or Hudson County. It's not like, oh, all of a sudden now, unless you can educate me on this, unless somehow the legislature changes this at a state level with the state park, where maybe a percentage of revenues from certain state parks go regionally, that's one thing. But the idea that, hey, people are like, oh yeah, build an amphitheater, build a few football fields for Jersey City high schools nearby to use for playing conditions. Listen, I've seen baseball fields in Jersey City that are terrible. Our high school baseball kids deserve better. Our track and field, our football teams deserve better in Jersey City. But those facilities being used are not going to benefit Jersey City residents or any revenue generated. That I don't see the insistence on creating that.
I agree. And yet Jersey City will have to fund some, costs that are kind of unintended consequences, additional cops, to police the area or enforce laws in the area, enforce the nearby transit, because you have the light rail stop there. So you're going to have a lot of unintended costs to Jersey City by bringing in that much attention to it. So, and you're right, we're not going to benefit, I know that they're talking about some job creation there, but you can't guarantee that those will be Jersey City jobs either.
Yeah, I mean, again, but at the same time, it's like if someone told me, hey, listen, in Trenton, there's enough votes to change, I think, the way that state parks and the revenues are, sort of proportioned out. That's one thing. First of all, me, I don't have any faith in the legislature sometimes, especially with the leadership we have, and I don't mind saying that. I know you'll take the high road, but what bothers me, I think, is that if someone said to me, hey, Fernando, there's at least a chance that, hey, if we change the law where some percentage of revenues generated would benefit Hudson County, I think that's probably a compromise I think a lot of people might be willing to live with. I know for you, you just said, hey, you live right by. The last thing you need is a PNC Bank Art Center type facility where, let's say in the summer, instead of traveling all the way down the shore, guess what? We'd have an amphitheater right in Liberty State Park. We could go to concerts there. We could have conventions. We could have, Comic-Con for all we know. But if the revenue is not going to benefit Hudson County and more specifically Jersey City, I mean, again, for me, it's a hard sell. And for a lot of residents that don't want the congestion, that maybe don't want, because if anything else, I think it should be more about cleaning up Jersey City. You want to create a few more parks and soccer fields and help build facilities for kids. I don't think anybody's opposed to that, Amy.
Absolutely.
But if we're talking about like a 10,000 seat arena or an amphitheater listen, I think it'd be great for college graduations. I think it'd be great for nearby high schools and maybe nearby universities like St. Peter's, NJCU, whatever. Again, that's one thing. I just think that people are getting very tribal now about where Liberty State Park should go. And I think that's also getting a little messy too.
Yeah, absolutely. We're nativists here, so a lot of people are, this is kind of my territory, is my ground, Sam Peston is still in it. And I believe every word that man says. He's such a staunch advocate, and he is, not going to go down quietly with any of this. He's been doing this his whole life, as has his parents. So, this runs pretty deep. And, as far as performances and conferences, if you look at a place like Atlantic City that has all of the venue space in the world, Atlantic City doesn't really benefit directly from that. And in Jersey City, we're, having the Lowe's, kind of undergoing renovations. I think that's going to be a great spot for local shows, for good music and conferences and stuff. So we'll bring it to Journal Square.
We'll see. Yeah, definitely. I think it's an issue that's not going away. And I know that people have kind of dug their feet into the sand. Everyone from the governor to the Senate president, to the Assembly speaker, local officials like yourselves on the council. I think it's definitely something to keep an eye out for. Speaking of local officials on the city council, obviously a big issue, Amy, that I guess continues in Hudson County's largest city is the topic of recreational cannabis. And it's sort of like the topic of, well, which locations are going to get dispensary licenses? And is it too much too soon, let's say in a congested area, for example, like Central Avenue? If you're telling me there's going to be one or two, but if you're talking about giving multiple dispensary licenses in such a deeply congested area, again, I don't know if that's going to benefit everybody. I mean, essentially, it's like, do you want a McDonald's on every block?
This is very true, especially because the state law still is that you can only sell New Jersey marijuana. So everyone is really going to be selling the same product. Where I use the analogy, like if I feel like a slice of pizza, I may want Renato's or Gino's in the Heights. I may want Vinny's. I will go to a different neighborhood depending on the slice of pizza I feel like. Whereas when these cannabis businesses start to open, it's really not going to be, who do I feel like today? It's going to be the same product everywhere. So you're going to go to whatever is closest to you. The CCB, I don't know if you saw, a few council meetings ago, we put a pause. They have until May 15th to get applications in, go through that process. But I do think that everybody was asking to kind of halt all of it. Not that they don't support it, but nobody's opened yet. And, it's been about a year since the city has started to approve people through the CCB, and nobody's opened just yet. And then I think if you look at the numbers, they're close to about 50, they're in the 40 range. So that's a lot right now. So we do want to take a look and make sure that, our economy is going to, accept this and allow it to flourish, because we do want it here and we do want to have access here, and we want to roll out the lounges soon. But I do think that we're putting a lot of consideration into, what do we expect from these businesses in terms of community incentives? How should they be working with the residents of Jersey City? And I know like people in the beginning said, expungement workshops and 100% Jersey City employed. But now people are looking for you to have connections and memorandums of understanding with good nonprofits, maybe giving to our recreational programs, giving to our parks, our public safety as, kind of a give back to us to do business here in good faith. So we're relooking all of that as a council and also with the CCB board. Sorry.
No, it's definitely something that's interesting. I mean, and I've talked about it on the show with you before and other programs as well, where, I mean, I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't smoke weed. I never have. I never will. I don't care to. I think some people might say, Fernando, if anyone deserves to smoke weed and lighten up, it's probably Fernando. But that's a different topic for another day. But again, I just look at it from the perspective of like, if it's going to generate revenue and it's going to benefit the city, where, hey, those revenues can benefit the schools, right? I mean, let's be honest. Aren't we keep hearing there's a budget deficit with the Board of Education, and it seems like the school budget's ballooning up again. Again, you were a former trustee on the Board of Ed. I think full well that process that goes into it.
Yeah.
You're still an educator in the Jersey City School District. I mean, how concerned are you about these numbers we're hearing about? It seems like this budget keeps getting fatter than a kid in a bakery.
Yeah, they're huge. And I mean, if you look at the staff that they have, you can understand that, most of this is going to salaries and benefits, which are truly deserving. But I don't think we've had enough time to judge if classroom behavior and scores have gone up. And if this is really kind of trickled down from central office to the individual classrooms, especially the most at-risk classrooms in schools that you have, 90% of students on free and reduced lunch, where you have high cases of, bullying. We want to see more results there. And it's a very, very large budget. Not saying they're not deserving of that, but I think people are looking for outcomes now, and it might take a few years to get there. So don't increase the budget anymore. Really maintain what you have and really foster, your educators to, make things work and be flexible with them in the way that they want to teach and the new strategies that they want to implement. I think they have to also balance out the populations in the schools, where you have some overcrowding that is horrible in really old buildings that need work. And then you have a lot of, buildings that are not at close to capacity. So they may have to look at the, moving children around, allowing flexible programs like STEM programs or the Women's Leadership Program that is opening up in Jersey City, and allowing students to go outside of their neighborhood if they choose to.
Interesting. I think, listen, we have to keep an eye on that Board of Education budget, because it's always going to be on the minds, I think, of homeowners and parents and taxpayers alike. Speaking of taxes, Amy, what can you tell us tonight about the municipal budget? What can Jersey City residents look forward to in the sense of any tax increases? Is there going to be a bump in services, maybe a decline in services? What can you share with us tonight?
So I know that we're preparing a lot within our own little committees with departments to do presentations earlier this year than we did last year. I know departments across the board have been asked to make cuts of 10 to 15%, and not staffing cuts, but, just kind of budget cuts, which it's tough. You don't want to restrict services, but I commend directors like Director Flanagan and Director McLaughlin who attack grant money. They go after every last penny they can in federal, state, and private grants to allow us to enhance programming and to do it not on the taxpayer of Jersey City, but just kind of as a collective. They've partnered with great agencies. And I think, even public safety and DPW go after grant money now, too, because they don't want to rely off of the local tax dollars all the time. I really hope that we don't have a large increase. I think it's always safe to say you're going to have some sort of increase, but I think it should be, modest and flexible, and people should kind of see that with the cost of living. It shouldn't be a huge hit to their pockets. But we also, as a council, have a responsibility to make sure that we're offering the right programming and services equitably throughout the city with that tax money.
Oh, absolutely. Fair enough. And I think obviously another issue to keep an eye out for. Amy, it is an election season. Obviously, it's getting hot and heavy up here in North Hudson tomorrow, Judgment Day in 2 municipalities. We'll see what happens. Obviously, they're on this fall city council races in Hoboken. 5 years ago, when you were the chair of the HCDO, I mean, you really played a pivotal role in the reelection of senior United States Senator Robert Menendez. Obviously, we know that you got the vote out. I think somewhere between 20 to, I'm looking here just the stats here. I think somewhere between 20 to 25,000 votes you were able to help galvanize in Hudson County. In really, in a midterm election year where there was a lot of, anxiety, people were fired up, right? They had their opinions about the 45th president and what message they wanted to send in the midterm races. But, Bob, and I know Bob personally, so this isn't a slight against Bob, but I think that Bob was going to have a tough time, right? There were a lot of people, I think, statewide, if we remember, Lisa McCormick primaried him, attempted to primary him, right, with pretty much no money. I mean, I think she had maybe $3 in an account somewhere. Again, this is not to slight her, but these are the facts. And she just ran a social media campaign. It wasn't like, she raised money. She wasn't holding like town halls. It was just all via social media. She still got 40% of the vote. And I think people sort of looked at that. Oh, wow. And I know even Bob personally said to me, like, hey, that was a wake up call to really get to work in an election year when it comes to, running for reelection. Obviously, your successor is very different as chair. And I know that a lot of people behind the scenes have said to me, I don't know why they took Amy out. Amy was someone as chair of the HCDO that was able to broker deals, go up and down the state. And I would just argue, again, staying in Jersey City, Stephen Fulop a couple months ago already announced his video that he's running for governor. A lot of people gave him flack that it looks like he filmed that in October, so he knew for many months, et cetera, et cetera. But obviously, Steve's the first prominent Democrat to enter the race. Obviously, we don't have any Republicans officially yet that have announced for 2025. And again, this is not a slight against Anthony Veneri. I know him personally. He's been a guest on my show. He's a gentleman. He's donated to my philanthropy. This is not a knock on Anthony Veneri, the person. So I don't want anyone to get it twisted. I just don't know as chair if he can broker deals that Steve is going to need if he wants to win the Democratic primary. Again, he's going to have potentially maybe Ross Baraka, the mayor of Newark. He's going to have Leroy Jones. If that's the case, that Ross Baraka decides to run, Leroy Jones, the state Democratic committee chair, is clearly going to back Ross Baraka. And so is Essex County Executive Carl DiVincenzo. Those are big names that will probably be in the corner of Ross Baraka. We have Josh Gottheimer, hell of a fundraiser, comes from the Clinton School of Fundraising. He can raise money. He's got money. You got Mikey Sherrill, both U.S. representatives. She checks off a lot of boxes. We don't know about Steve Sweeney really in South Jersey, especially if the Norcross rumors are true, that the Norcross empire is crumbling quicker than the New York Mets in October. You know what I'm saying? But it just seems like for someone like Steve that he's going to need a power broker to help him, again, make deals during this primary season. It seems like you were probably the better fit as chair than Anthony Veneri. And I'm not the only person that says that. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that say the same thing. When you hear that, how does it make you feel? Because I'm sure you're relieved you're not dealing with that sort of laborious job.
Oh, well, I am flattered. I am truly, truly flattered. That was an amazing chapter of my life, but I really couldn't handle that and council and my day job too. It wasn't, an overthrow of a regime. It was really, kind of relooking the Democratic Party here. And I think, Chairman Veneri has totally different tactics, and different relationships, but I think he's going to be widely successful. I think he can help in brokering deals, but I was about to say Governor Fulop. Wow, Mayor Fulop. It brokers his own deals. And I think that he's done that since the start of his career. He likes to be the one speaking for himself and not having others speak for him. And although he's going to need the statewide help, and I think if you look at his entire campaign team, you have people from up and down the state, rural areas, suburban areas, urban areas. He's totally picked a great team. You could see he has those statewide relationships. And I think the party now, I don't know what everybody else is watching, but I see them out every single day campaigning, and I think the cohesiveness, especially when you think about there's a new, Senate, new legislative district created. They're not all incumbents running. The committee race is all here too, and everybody is going full throttle to get a strong voter turnout. And I think that's an indication of us wanting to support Steve Fulop for governor and show the state that we will come out in huge numbers. I think when he came out was perfect timing, because everybody was kind of, saying, is he, isn't he? He's saying, oh yeah, he's had this in the works and there's nothing wrong with that. His accomplishments are under his belt, so he can stand on them now as doing a run for governor and let everybody else in the state go, all right, now it's your turn. I'm showing you my cards. Now, I'm all in. Now you show me yours. And I think you'll have some people that will back away just because of that, even if they can raise big money. Yeah. He's a really charismatic leader. He has the experience under his belt. He has, proven leadership. He's able to work with so many diverse different parties here. That I think it should send some shockwaves. And one tactic that's different than, Chairman Veneri and I is, I liked the, come in smiling. And I think Chairman Veneri holds that North Hudson attitude where it's a little bit tougher and more aggressive. That might be the attitude we need marching down to Trenton.
I mean, it'll be very interesting again, because Stephen Fulop is the only declared Democrat. We'll see who else decides to jump in the race. And obviously, when Steve decided to run for governor, obviously, he will not be running for another term as mayor. I think it starts to heat up the speculation for 2025. I mean, Amy, again, I'm not saying this to be mean, but I mean, I think that your name was being floated around when you got elected as councilwoman in 2021. Certainly, the legal matters, obviously, that you're dealing with, I think, again, I'm not saying this to be mean-spirited. I think to some extent, some people would say maybe it's put a little bit of a damper about how you're being perceived. Do you want to go on the record right now? Will you be running for another term as council in 2025?
I would love to run for council again. Mayor is a huge, huge lift. I have a feeling it's going to be a big pool of people jumping in. I would just request to have a seat at the table and helping that person or groups, get the best of Jersey City. But I enjoy where I'm at now. I'm able to balance home life. I'm able to balance school life and also the city initiatives too. I do have a long way to go with what I'd like to do with the city. And I don't think that, the incident in the summer has held me back too much. It has slowed me down, but I'm picking up that pace again and moving forward. But I'm very comfortable where I am right now.
And the reason I ask is because, again, I think it seems like that theater is going to get crowded real quick for 25. Obviously, there's rumors about James Solomon, who can raise money. He's won two races pretty much without HCDO's support, which is very hard. And to his credit, he's done that. Also, for example, Bill O'Day, who's pretty much a veteran of the Hudson County political wars, as they say. Also, the council president, your colleague, I think Daniel Rivera, also the other councilman at large. Seems like there's a lot of names in Jersey City being floated for 2025. But again, I'll get back to you. It would seem that you seem determined to want to run. The vibe I get is that you're determined to run again. Do you feel that between now and that period of time that you can generate the goodwill you're going to need to run again? And obviously, listen, whoever's going to run against you is going to go for the low-hanging fruit, which we all know what it is. Do you feel confident that between now and early 2025 that you can put together, as they say, enough of a record to say, listen, I get it. By your own words, it was a mistaken judgment. This happened. I'm trying to move on. I'm trying to do better. Do you feel confident you can give that record to people and say, you know what, please overlook this. I think my record it has been working for you. Do you feel confident you can do that?
Absolutely. And just like anyone else who has had missteps, made mistakes, or, has been on the bad list, people, when they see them now, that's not the first thing that they think of or talk about. And people remember them for their accomplishments and thank them for, having the thick skin and toughing it out and continue to work, not letting it define them. And after a while, people get tired of talking about it and hearing about it, so the questions kind of drown out and people, let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. What are you going to do? How are you going to help me? So I think by the time that election cycle rolls around, that'll be more of that, less of the negatives.
Speaking of election cycle, I have to say that one guy who has gone from being that operative, being that, I hate to use the word enforcer, but being that guy that wears many hats, that has worked behind the scenes for so long, obviously is potentially going to be the successor to your father. And, when you look at what Craig Guy was for some time, right? He worked in the inner circle. He was working behind the scenes, was a counsel to your father, was part of that resource, right? Sort of like that network that your father could rely on in terms of seasoned operatives. If I can't remember somebody really making a transition as quickly and smoothly as Craig Guy has. This, again, a guy who's worked behind the scenes. And just like the ad says, like, now he's going to be the guy. And again, I think shout out to Craig, because I think I can't remember anyone making that transition as smoothly and as well as he has.
Yeah, politics will surprise you, and for good reasons, not always bad stuff. And one thing that my father has said, and I've heard from Craig as well, is a lot of the job of county executive is balancing the powers of the mayor and making sure that each city and each mayor has an equitable share of what's coming down from the state or from the federal government, whether it's county roads, parks, grant money. And Craig was at the table brokering and making sure that each mayor and each municipality felt good, felt cared for. From, East Newark, that's a handful of blocks, the mile square city of Hoboken, into the bigger cities that are demanding of more resources or need more infrastructure help. So he is not just a mouthpiece for the county. He was one kind of making sure that the peace and diplomacy was kept, that resources were equitable, and that expansion of the county happened for everyone, and everyone kind of progressed together. So I think it does make a lot of sense. And I think it is funny that people saw him behind the scenes so much, didn't know what he would be like in front. And he is this charismatic, big smile, welcoming person. You could see in the videos and the pictures and just on his campaign trail how engaging he is with voters. And I think he's going to have a really strong voter turnout, which is great for the county, great for maybe the future governor, but also great for our state legislators too, that are going to be on the ballot.
Obviously, he'll be succeeding your father. I think we talked right before we went on the air today. You were saying your father almost feels like he's a senior on spring break, right? It's sort of like getting down to the finish line. Yeah. What stands out about your dad in terms of his legacy? I know it's a lot to sort of compress into one answer after so many years of service, but what really stands out about your dad as county executive?
It's a lot, and I feel like kind of following my whole life, his values always remain the same. His priorities were always the same. And I think he's always the same person. He has the same good qualities, the same faults. And it's funny because now leading up to the last year, a lot of different groups have been asking to honor him or recognize him. And they go over these accomplishments. And I'm like, oh my God, I forgot that you did that. I forgot that you had a hand in that. And my own district with the county, they're actually going to be renaming the middle school after him. So Explore 2000 will soon be the Tom DeGise middle school building. And that's something he's so proud of because he was an educator. He was a teacher at Dickinson and Snyder. And that's what really propelled him into local politics. And it just built on that. So I'm so incredibly proud of him. I hope that I make him proud too. But, he never wavered on what was important to him. And he built relationships even with contentious groups and continue to have those same values. And I think people really respect that and they'll remember him for that.
Amy, you've been an absolute peach, as they say, to be on with me after a long day. Right before I let you go here, just wrapping up, sort of going back to the beginning of our episode here. Obviously, you've had a tumultuous, pretty much it's approaching almost a full calendar year. What do you want to say to people who, A, still doubt you, B, are skeptical of you and the explanation you've given, and C, really, again, moving forward, you're just trying to do your job. You're trying to, I think, win people back, sort of win people's confidence back, win sort of hearts and minds, as they say. Again, it's approaching a year. What do you want to tell people, again, that still, A, as I said, doubt you, are skeptical, are critical? What do you want to say to them, again, as you're, in your own words, you're trying to do better and serve?
Absolutely. Well, I always tell people they build them strong in Jersey City, and people can try and bring you down, but we just come back even stronger. And for those who are unsure about me or if I should be here, I ask you to work with me. Again, you don't have to leave the room and say you're going to vote for me or that you're going to like me and share my media or whatnot, but you'll see that things can get done. And I do things better in a group. I do things better with people as the experts, and allow me to kind of steer in the right direction. And that's all I want to do. At the end of the day, we're all people. We're all normal, regular people who care about something.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you care about an issue, a neighborhood, some sort of quality of life, share it with me. And I promise things will get done. And that you may not like me at the end of the day, but you'll like that you've accomplished something too.
Well, I think you said it perfectly. Amy, again, before I let you, I want to thank you for your time, because you're always delightful to talk to.
Thank you.
I think we can go on record. I think I'm your favorite conservative. You may not want to say it openly, but I think I have to be your favorite conservative. I know I get a lot of flack online. I think I'm not as unreasonable as people make me out to be. Obviously, you wouldn't talk to me if that was the case. But I think, obviously, besides politics, obviously we get along as friends. But I always appreciate you taking the time to come on this show. You're always very willing when I send out the invite and shoot you a bunch of dates. Hey, listen, get back to me. We'll certainly coordinate back to talk on the Hudson, obviously, with new episodes returning this summer. I look forward to having you back on. But you're always a delight to have on the show. I appreciate your faith in the program and you believing in it. So, again, I thank you for that. I'll give you the last word tonight.
No, thank you. As always, thank you for having me. And just like I don't read a lot of my own social media, I don't go on everybody else's. So I don't know what they're saying about you exactly, but I invite them to have a conversation with you as well. And, we could be ideologically different on things, but like I always said, we have a conversation. We're able to balance both ends and not, be volatile, which I think is an important practice to have for everybody. So thank you for having me.
No, absolutely. I appreciate that. Give my best to your dad. And again, happy Mother's Day to all the moms in your family. And we'll talk to you again soon here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV.
Yes. Thank you again. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Folks, again, great program tonight with Amy DeGise, the distinguished councilwoman at large in Jersey City. Obviously, I think healthy attitude with Amy as she approaches a year after the events of last summer. Listen, folks, you're going to believe whatever you want to believe. You're going to take sides, whatever. I think Amy's explained it as best as possible. It's up to you at home to make a decision what side of the fence you sit on. That's for sure. But folks, before I let you go here, obviously a lot to unpackage here before we call it a night on this special primetime edition of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. And certainly, folks, if you're just joining us live here, sharing is caring. Click that share button. It takes 2 seconds, and you show your support for Real Talk via Jersey First TV. And folks, one of the things that caught my attention over the weekend, among many other things, obviously, was a story by NJ Spotlight News. And, obviously, when I talk about, who's doing a disservice to journalism, we always have the usual suspects, right? Insider NJ, the Star Ledger, NorthJersey.com, NJ.com. And we all know the guilty parties, right? We all know who's consistently doing us a disservice to journalism all the time, right? We know whether it's, Alan Steinberg, Jay Lasseter, Bob Hennelly, John Van Vliet, Max Pizarro, whether it's Tom Moran, whether it's Charles Style. I expect that, right? Like those individuals who masquerade as journalists, like for them, Halloween's all year round because they're masquerading and putting on this costume, pretending to be something that they're not. but I kind of expect a little bit better out of NJ Spotlight News because they tend to be sort of be looked at as like the centerpiece of New Jersey media, right? And of course, like I said, like the aforementioned, also, Matt Friedman and all the rest of the insufferable leftists that permeate in the liberal media echo chamber. But when I look at, NJ Spotlight News, I kind of expect a little bit better. And a story that caught my attention recently, and again, when I'm watching NJ Spotlight News, it's on my Twitter feed. I follow, Brianna Vannozzi, who, by the way, I mean, hot little mama, no, with all due respect. I mean, she's great to look at every single night when she's doing the news. And obviously, I mean, a hell of a lot better to look at on our smartphones, on our tablets, on our computers, certainly than Uncle David Cruz, And of course, it's not her fault, whatever she's reporting on, because she's just sort of given a run sheet of stories to cover that night. But who I am going to take to task is Uncle Dave, because again, as the senior correspondent at NJ Spotlight News, you would think that he's going to have considerable say about what stories run and what stories don't run. And a story that just caught my eye over the weekend was a video that he did. And again, great to see Brianna Vannozzi on my screen talking about it. But then, I'm looking at the story, again, David Cruz ran over the weekend. It's about Seton Hall. Apparently, Seton Hall students rally over the Africana Studies program. Now, according to the caption there, students say the university does not give the program adequate support, right? Now, it's a pretty interesting video, but a group of students at Seton Hall University walked out in protest Wednesday at the school's South Orange campus over what they said has been a lack of support for Seton Hall's Africana Studies program. The program's only full-time professor and program director left the university last year and has not been replaced. The 53-year-old program was ahead of its time in 1970, but has over the years been shifted to the back burner status, according to Ingrid Hill of the People's Organization for Progress, which served as an advisor to the student demonstrators. What a surprise. Hill, who is a former student and a 30-year employee at the university, said, quote, "It's an ongoing battle at Seton Hall in terms of really accepting Africana studies. Our classes are being held by adjunct professors or part-time professors, and therefore the material is watered down. So we don't feel comfortable in our degrees." Listen, one of the freshmen that said that, I believe Amina Kuskat, mentioned that. I mean, you just don't know what you're talking about. As someone who works in higher education, as someone who's taught in higher education, whether you're full-time faculty or an adjunct or part-time, I can tell you one thing, that as a professor, we care. We're not watering down anything. So the idea that just because there isn't a full-time faculty member doesn't mean anything. I know plenty of adjunct professors. And again, when we were all in grad school and as we're trying to cut our teeth in the business, right, we're starting off as adjuncts. I hate to break it to you, we're busting our asses. So that's a little ignorant on your part to sort of say that. Now, also students also complain about what they said were heavy-handed policies meant to intimidate students and discourage the very discourse universities are supposed to protect. All right. So again, as you're watching the video and you're watching these students demonstrate on campus, right? Obviously, the university had a policy. You can see it there at the screen, but I'll read it to you. Seton Hall welcomes our students to express concern and is committed to academic freedom, civil discourse, and our Catholic mission. We have a number of policies in place that enable students to exercise their right to speak out while ensuring the safety of our entire campus community and the ability to maintain university operations. Again, that's according to Seton Hall University spokesperson, Laurie Pine. So, of course, as you're watching the video there, obviously, you're looking at some of the individuals there that are speaking, right? Larry Ham and everything else. But one person that really, really stood out for me, and someone that just, I look at and I'm just like, folks, this is my issue with this. Okay, this is my issue with what these students are protesting about. And obviously, we saw the woman I mentioned before, they're obviously giving her 2 cents about the university and the program itself. And, when I'm looking at this, all right, and I mean, looking at Ingrid Hill, in the video itself, talking about Africana studies and being put on the back burner, Dave, you should know better, man. And again, I expect a little bit better because, it's not racist. It's not Seton Hall University disregarding Africana studies. Again, I used to work there. I worked there part-time. I loved my time there. I think it's a great university. It's a great campus, a great culture. Some department chairs I don't care for, quite frankly, at that campus. But I mean, that's neither here or there. It's a good school. And if a program like this is not getting funded or not getting faculty support, well, hello, welcome to academia, welcome to higher education. That's happening all across the country. but more so I think about the outrage about what this degree represents, right? And again, let me be consistent here, because I know people might say, oh, there's Fernando dog whistling and this, that. I would say this about any program, whether it's Latino studies, whether it's the god-awful, useless gender studies or women's studies. These are all like sort of social science degrees that, quite frankly, and let me be very clear about this, because I've said this to my students all the time when I participate in career fairs and I sit there doing Q&As and students ask me, hey, Dr. Uribe, what's a good major to pursue? What's a good degree to attain? I tell them all the time, listen, if you're going to be a teacher, if you're going to go into social work, if you're going to if you're going to pursue communications or political work or nonprofit work, yeah, sure. You want to go major in Africana studies or Latino studies or women's studies or a lot of these other social science or humanities-based majors, sure. But a lot of kids think about, hey, how can I make money when I get out of college? Well, guess what? You're not going to make money with some of these majors. And I think that's the story you should really be focusing on, Dave, not like sort of enabling, organizations like the People's Organization for Progress. I mean, again, whether it's Larry Ham or Ingrid Hill or the rest of the insufferable leftists there, I mean, of course they're going to bitch and moan about this. You're only giving them, you're only sort of enabling their nonsense and sort of the gibberish that they peddle on a consistent basis. Why you're giving them any credence, I think, is beyond me. Okay? Well, we all know, folks, and again, I say this consistently, okay, you don't have to spend tens of thousands of, if not in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to a four-year university, which, by the way, folks, Seton Hall is not a cheap university. It's pretty expensive. It's one of the more expensive private universities in the region, not just the state of New Jersey, but in the tri-state area. Okay? So if you're going to go there, major in something that's going to help you get a job. Okay? If you want to pursue a job where you're going to make, at least try to make money, and when the starting salaries are, I guess, commensurate with experience, that's great. But if you're going to major in some of these humanities and social sciences majors, I'm sorry, you're not going to get a job that's going to give you a good starting salary. That's just the truth. Okay? You can go to Barnes & Noble's on a weekend and you go learn everything you need to learn about Africana studies and Latino studies and Hispanic studies and women's studies and gender studies. You can do that over a weekend. You don't need to spend tens of thousands of dollars on what is going to be a useless degree. Okay, so before anyone decides to say I'm dog whistling because it's Africa, no, I would say this about Latino studies again, Hispanic studies, Asian studies, Indian studies, women's. I would say about any sort of whatever, culturally based studies type of curriculum where it's not going to help you get a job. It's not going to help you make money to pay back your loans, which you're probably taking out to go to college to begin with. Dave, that's the issue you should be focusing on. Not giving these kids a spotlight, not giving this organization, which is nothing more than a bunch of insufferable leftists bitching and moaning about whatever the next thing they want to be outraged about. Okay? These are people that know nothing about economics. They think we print money. They want universal this and universal that. They don't live in reality. Why you're enabling them and why you're giving them any attention is beyond me, Dave. You should be better than this. NJ Spotlight News should be better than this. Okay. And again, Dave, I'm not trying to take a shot at you personally, but come on, man, do better. You're the senior correspondent for NJ Spotlight News. I mean, really, is this the most important topic in New Jersey right now? Like, is this something that's worth talking about? It really isn't. And I think you need to do better. Again, good for the students speaking out. But again, in this climate where higher education is getting cut, we're not hiring professors. And if we are hiring professors, we're hiring them in majors that make sense, in the natural sciences, in business, in mathematics, because those are the jobs that are going to make you money when you graduate. Okay? More times than not, folks, we seem to be focusing on the worst virtue signaling when it comes to academia and education. Okay, while kids in Japan and China are learning calculus in the 5th grade, yeah, you know what? We seem fixated on pronouns and all this other social justice nonsense, which do not help kids. It does not help them get ready for the job market. It does not help them to be prepared for the real world. And you can see that when they're going to college and they're bitching and moaning about something like this, where they can just go to Barnes and Nobles and learn about this stuff instead of spending tens of thousands of dollars. Dave, do better. My God, there are more important things in New Jersey media and politics and culture and activism to talk about than this nonsense. Do better, man. Give me a break. I mean, it's getting, I expect this virtue signaling left-wing nonsense out of Insider NJ, NJ's, NorthJersey.com, NJ.com, the Star Ledger, Politico New Jersey with Matt Friedman. I expect all that nonsense from them. I don't expect this from NJ Spotlight News. Come on, Dave, do better, bro. Folks, before we call it a show here, I do want to of course, give a special thanks to everybody this past weekend for attending what was, I think, an amazing 50th wedding anniversary surprise party for my parents, Fernando and Sarah Uribe. And I can't say enough about, how overjoyed we all were to spend this day with you, Mom and Dad, to surprise you, to have guests coming in from across the world, as they say, and across the country. I cannot say enough how privileged I was to be there, how privileged I am to be your son, and to celebrate this special day with you. As you can see, my parents are a very healthy couple, obviously celebrating 50 years of marriage. And of course, during the week, they were able to renew their vows where they first got married at St. Joseph's of the Palisades in West New York. But of course, at our party this past weekend, they also needed to renew their vows. So of course, when we talk about renewing their vows, they need someone who is certified in the state of New Jersey, right? And of course, when we think about that, of course, we think about yours truly, who is, of course, an ordained minister. So for all the haters out there that decide to speak ill of Fernando Uribe, just know that you're speaking ill of a man of faith. So do better, folks. Again, do better, because Minister Uribe says so. But of course, more importantly, congratulations to my mother and father, celebrating 50 years of marriage, of love, commitment to each other. I couldn't be prouder to be your son. I couldn't be prouder to be there that day. And I cannot be prouder to help you renew your vows as an ordained minister in the state of New Jersey. And I don't know, it was a great day for me, great day for everybody in attendance. I want to thank everyone who came out this past weekend, certainly, and celebrate with my mom and dad. It was a momentous occasion for sure. And of course, it's nice to have this ministry cloth for me, obviously, for the foreseeable future as Minister Uribe, among the many hats that I wear, certainly in the state of New Jersey. That's just one more, folks. So again, congratulations to my mom and dad on 50 years of wedding bliss, and to 50 more. Folks, before I call it a night, I do want to take this opportunity to pay tribute to a friend of mine, a friend of the show. And, I think about, Alex Esquerrosa, who was just an amazing doctor. He was an amazing father. He was a fellow Rutgers alum, as you can see there. I mean, he was a guy that went to Rutgers football games, no matter how bad they were, would go to Rutgers basketball games. He was as proud as a Rutgers alumnus as you'll ever meet. And for someone like myself who takes my alumni status very seriously, Alex just blew me out of the water. I mean, he was so committed to the State University. He was a great professional, a medical doctor, a friend, a mentor to many. We lost him last week. He would have been 59 years old this Sunday, excuse me. And Alex leaves behind a legacy of just being a great human being. He's a guy who would always be a gentleman, come to my philanthropic events, whether it was about breast cancer or other causes that I believed in. Was a big fan of this show, made a point to share episodes on a regular basis, tag me in it, always, never hesitated to reach out to me, whether it was in person or online, just say, hey, listen, kid, I believe in you. And it's kind of funny for him to call me kid when we're almost about the same age, he's a little older than I am, but, just to get that sort of warm feeling from him, and the reception was amazing from Alex. And he's a guy that believed in this show and said, hey, Fernando, stick with it. There are some days you may want to quit and not do this anymore. I don't know how you do it, putting up with all the hate online that you get from people locally, but you know what? You're a gentleman and you're strong, and I commend you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. You're going to make it. You're going to make it. You are making it. And I would look at Alex when he would say that to me in person or online. I thought, well, Alex, that's very kind of you. I hope I get to make it. And he would just say, no, man, you are making it. You're making a difference. You're calling out all the evil in the liberal media, not just nationally, but in New Jersey. Keep up the fight, man. Keep up the fight. Keep up the fight. And he would always say that to me. And I really just treasure my experiences and my interactions with Alex. He was a gentleman. He was a scholar. He was a big fan of all sports. We used to have a little banter sometimes online. He was a great guy, jovial, good heart. Leaves behind a wonderful family, 4 children. My heart goes out to his family during this very difficult time. So in closing there, to my good friend Alex Hescarosa, bro, I love you. We miss you. And, we'll always think of you. And I'll always treasure those words and that support you would give me on this show and how much of a fan you were. I'll keep fighting for you. I promise you, I will keep fighting for you and all these other friends I've lost over the years for one reason or another that have been fans of my brand of journalism that have said to me, Fernando, you're doing great things. Keep on fighting. Keep going after evil. You're going to defeat evil. So big words. I got to live up to those words. I'm going to do that for you, Alex. And you know what? I owe it to you. Alex Hescarosa was 58 years old when we lost him last week. And we love you and we miss you. And my sincerest condolences to your family, to your children, to everyone that loves you. We miss you. And I'll keep fighting for you, Alex. And that's our show for this week. Once again, I want to thank the Councilwoman at Large, Amy DeGise, for her appearance tonight. Very insightful conversation. Special primetime edition. We ran a little long tonight, so I appreciate you staying with us. Folks, again, do not forget to like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. My own Instagram and Twitter is at the Fernando Zone. Don't forget to follow Jersey First as well. Subscribe on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Also, of course, where you get your podcast, whether it's Spotify or SoundCloud, make sure that you download Jersey First and take the episodes with you wherever and whenever you go. And of course, folks, I cannot say enough about how proud I am to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. Yes, folks, Jersey First TV continues to revolutionize Garden State Media. We're educating, we're engaging, and we're entertaining. That's all we do every week here on Jersey First. Of course, a shout out to Elizabeth Nader, host of the Nader Narrative. New episodes of the Nader Narrative air every Thursday via jerseyfirst.org/TV. And of course, new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Malilo and Stephen Rombolo also air on jerseyfirst.org/TV. And of course, new episodes of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe air live every Monday night. Of course, folks, we'll be back at our regularly scheduled time, 6 p.m. next Monday night. We appreciate always tuning in, folks. And again, without you, I cannot say enough. Without you, my loyal viewing audience, this traffic that we keep getting on this show would not be possible. So again, you know what? It's nothing organic. It's all organic. It's not boosted. It's not sponsored. Nothing. It's all organic here, folks. So while we have, those little journalists and activists with the little shows over there getting little traffic, yeah, we're getting good traffic here. We're not the same. It's greatness here and not so greatness over there. So we appreciate your support all the time here on Jersey First TV. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot say it enough. Thank you so much here for joining us. Of course, new episodes air every Monday night. Sharing is caring. Share the episode as we go off the air tonight, folks, all throughout the week. We appreciate it, of course, on your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, also on your LinkedIn. And always remember, folks, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's Real Talk right here with Jersey First TV. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top 50 Latino, the Latino Spirit Online magazine, certainly the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, the people's choice, and the people's voice. Of course, the guy whose skills pay the bills. Yes, it's me, folks, Fernando Uribe, saying so long, folks. And as always, I can't say it enough. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, by the way, happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there. We love you. I love my mom. I love my aunt, all the moms out there, my bestie, my other best friend, all you moms out there. God bless you. Every day is Mother's Day for everything that you mean to us and our families. Folks, have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next Monday night here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV.